Hi, it's Mel and today I'm filming my March wrap-up and April TBR. I read 7 books in the month of March. The first of those being Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, the first book in the 5-book Percy Jackson series. This is the first time I've ever read this book and I'm pretty sure everyone else has already read it. It's about a 12-year-old boy who finds out that he's a demigod and he goes on a quest and he's at a summer camp and it's all very dramatic. The second book that I finished in the month of March was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. This is a book in the Shadowhunter Chronicles series, aka a fantasy world written by Cassandra Clare where there are demon hunters and demons and warlocks and fairies and vampires and werewolves, and this is set in Victorian London. It follows a girl called Tessa who may or may not be a warlock, and a boy called Will and a boy called Jem, both Shadowhunters. I really love this book, like a lot. I love Victorian London and just Victorian England in general, and I don't read enough books set in that time. I highly recommend this series to anyone who hasn't already read it, which is not that many people. The third book that I finished in the month of March is actually a graphic novel, a collection of 13 comic books released in 2013 I think, and that is Young Avengers Omnibus by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey. I found out about these characters on the internet and I did some googling and I was obsessed pretty quickly. It has magic and superheroes and the Avengers not being able to do anything to help save the world because the magic only affects the adults and they don't know what's happening. And also dimensions and different worlds and a kid Loki that turns into teenage Loki halfway through, and the characters are way more diverse than the actual Avengers. It's also really funny and I really enjoyed reading it. The next book that I finished in the month of March was Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, the first book in the Uglies quartet, I think. This is the first book in a dystopian series following the 16-year-old girl, because we don't have enough of them yet. It's set in a world/city where, to stop people fighting about what people look like, everyone on their 16th birthday gets turned pretty by having like 3 operations when they're turned from an ugly to a pretty, and then pretties just party and do whatever they like all of the time. And this story is told from the point of view of a teenage girl who wants to be pretty, who befriends another teenage girl who doesn't want to be pretty. I really liked the sci-fi technology that everyone had and thought it was pretty weird but the things that the people of the future would think about us now and how we're so primitive. I didn't think this book was amazing, it was okay. The next book that I read in March was a Doctor Who book, and that is The Stone Rose by Jacqueline Rayner. This is set in the 2nd series of Doctor Who. The Doctor and Rose go to a museum because Mickey told them that there was something that they needed to see, and they find a statue of Rose, and obviously to get a 2,000-year-old statue they needed to go back to ancient Rome so that Rose could be adored by a sculptor and sculpted. So they go back in time and immediately drama starts happening. They find an old man who's lost his son and they promise that they'll help, and then there's this slave girl that gets mixed into it all, and then the time travel and the paradoxes get like really complicated. I've read better Doctor Who books, but it's not that bad. The 6th book that I read in the month of March was City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare, the 4th book in the Mortal Instruments series. This is also a Shadowhunters Chronicle book, but in a different series that takes place in modern day, 2007 New York, following a girl called Clary who finds out she's a Shadowhunter, her best friend Simon, who gets involved in a lot of drama and is on the cover of this book with her, and Shadowhunters from the Institute being Jace, Alec Lightwood and Isabel Lightwood. I really love this book and I just love reading these books in general, and if anyone hasn't read these books they should do it immediately. The last book that I read last month is a book that I probably should have read a very long time ago, and put off because I was majorly spoiled, and that is Allegiant by Veronica Roth, the last book in the Divergent trilogy. Divergent is a dystopian trilogy based around another 16-year-old girl, and the dystopian society is basically divided into factions and you have to choose what faction you go in, and it's set in Chicago, and this is the first book to not be inside the city, and it was a bit weird to read from the point of view of people who don't know what aeroplanes are and then they discover them. And they didn't realise how big the world was because they weren't taught about it in case they wanted to leave. And this was the first in the trilogy that was from two different perspectives. I know some people really didn't like this conclusion, but after a few days I actually guessed that I liked it. And now onto the TBR for this month. The book that I'm currently reading and probably going to finish first is Star and Kitty by Kara Stainton. This is just a contemporary set in England by the language of a secondary school student. I'm pretty sure she's 14, she might be 15, and at her school there's like a making a short film contest for the county, I think, and she enters it with her friends and drama probably happens, but it is making me remember the horrors that is public school in England. The next book that I plan on finishing in April is one that I've also started, and that is Angel Fall by Suzanne E. This is an angel book, to put it blatantly. It's in a society where the angels have taken over. People seem to like it. So the next book that I plan on finishing and have gotten a few pages into will not come as a surprise, seeing as the books that I read in my wrap-up, and that is Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare, the second book in the Infernal Devices trilogy after Clockwork Angel that I just read. Still only on the first chapter and I love it so much. This book still seems to be following Tessa, Jem and Will, and there still seems to be relationship drama, Victorian style. The next book is also a second book in a series, and that is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters, the second book in the Percy Jackson series, just because I should really get through all of them, and then the next series, which I don't have. I love everything mythology and Greek, so the next book is another Doctor Who book because it's kind of depressing how many unread Doctor Who books I own, and that is Apollo 23 by Justin Richards. I've already read a book by him that was also a Doctor Who book, but I can't remember which one it was. And the last book on my TBR that I probably won't even get to at all is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. It's the first book in a series. Everyone seems to love these books. I think it's fantasy. I'm not quite sure. It's about a girl who can either read minds or something else. I have no clue. Those are all the books that I wanted to talk about. Bye!